Hello and welcome back to the Tricky Takes podcast. I'm Austin here with Billy, and it
What
is
up?
World Series Day, Billy. Game one come later today, as you are probably watching this.
It's about time, man. If you had told me before the season the Dodgers would be playing in the World Series, would not be shocked.
No,
If you
I
had
would
told
have
me the
believed
Blue
you.
Jays were playing in the World Series, I wouldn't have believed you. Did not have a ton of faith in this team coming into the year. It seemed like they were closing really their window with the current roster that they had. Um, Hey, but they had a heck of a year, really good offensive year. The pitching always concerned me, but they pieced it together throughout the year, made some moves at the deadline, picking up Bieber. Scherzer got healthy throughout the year and helped him get there. Gosman was his, usual self. So, um, they really just they built a good roster and it worked out offensively, and then they did what they had to do on the rotation side of things to get them to this point. So, pretty impressive from the Blue Jays, I would say this year.
Very impressive. I mean, John Schneider, what he's done as the manager here,
Yeah.
the culture is awesome. I think Vladdy getting paid is was big for this team. It allowed him to, I think, play with sort of the freedom of knowing, he can go out and play and do his thing, and he has looked fantastic this year.
Yeah, and he's done it like kind of a different way. I know he's
Mhm.
always, you know, put up a lot of hits throughout the year. He's usually one of the, top guys in the league just in hits per year, but didn't really see the power numbers from him this year. I think he only had 20 something home runs for the year.
Yeah,
But hey, however he can get it done.
he's an anti-launch angle guy. His whole career, he has had a problem lifting the ball and hitting fly balls. He is a
Mhm.
line drive hitter, and he's just so strong that, when he mishits one and hits it too high, it's a home run.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, when you're his level of hitter, I think that's a really good way of doing it. It is pretty old school compared to
Yeah.
what we're seeing nowadays, but it works out really well for him. I think this is a pretty good way to jump in here and just talking about this Blue Jays offense in general. They are a powerhouse offense. When you look at
Mhm.
just even just the postseason and not kind of how they ended the regular season, they are not just great, but like an anomaly. Like going back to, I think I found a chart that was like 1969, going back to 1969, the Blue Jays are like a top five postseason offense.
Yeah. Well, Vladdy's got the highest OPS through a CS
Yeah.
in history. So, I mean, he's been on a tear this postseason, and they're doing it without Bo Bichette, one of their cornerstone pieces. But some of the other guys, Dalton Varsho, obviously George Springer had the huge swing in Game 7 against the Mariners. Other guys like Andres Jimenez have been stepping up, so it's been interesting to see. And then mentioning what they've done throughout the regular season as well. I know we're talking about mainly posts, but they were top five in batting average, runs, and OPS. Offensively for the year. Only stat they were outside of the top 10, only major stat was home runs. They were tied for 11th. So the offense was elite all year long. And they've continued that in the postseason.
They have, and this is the matchup that we didn't necessarily love going into the ALCS matching up against a great pitching staff in Seattle,
Mm,
and the bats just kept on rolling. They got uh, out, done probably two games. The first game of the series, they kind of came out completely flat, only scored one, and then I
yeah.
think in I don't know, game four, maybe it was, they only scored two. But
Game
other than
five.
those, game five, yeah, other than those two games, the offense really was clicking. I thought so.
Yeah, games one, two, and five. They put up one run, three runs, and two runs.
I mean, three runs is not like if that's your floor, that's fine.
Yeah,
Obviously, you don't want
against
to be
a
your third best. Yeah, against the Mariners.
against yeah. I mean,
And
and that particularly was a series the Blue Jays all year one of their biggest issues was giving up home runs, pitching.
Mhm.
And you look at, a team like the Mariners who slugs a bunch of home runs.
Mhm.
Um, they really contained the offense for the most part. And that was one of the more impressive, things that caught my eye. And I remember we both said, I think it was 2-1, the series
Mhm.
was 2-1. We both said we weren't ready to count the Blue Jays out. And sure enough, they came back and closed it. So, the ALCS was just a fun matchup because, it's two teams that we don't typically see, at this stage in the playoffs, and they were playing great, entertaining baseball. It wasn't, like obviously we don't see the Brewers that much in the NLCS, but they get swept. So, when you get a series like this and it lives up to the billing, it's a lot of fun. And that's what we got out of the ALCS. So, yeah, I was impressed with Toronto. Max Scherzer, Shane Bieber had some outstanding performances. Um, and then, yeah, the offense just kept chipping away. The bullpen, pitched well for the most part. So, um, really what got him here was being able to kind of limit the power surge. And usually when we did see, you know, Seattle hit the home runs outside of, I know, Gino Suarez had the grand slam in, what was that, game five?
Yeah.
A lot of the times we were just seeing solo home runs. So they weren't loading the bases or getting a few guys on and giving up a long ball. They were giving up some home runs, but they weren't, it was just solo home runs. So it wasn't the back breaking, you know, kill shot that we would see. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a big thing. Home runs that are solo shots versus three-run home
yeah,
runs make a large swing throughout the course of a seven-game series. So I want to talk about now the counterpart to this Blue Jays offense that we've been talking about and how red hot they are. And this is the Dodgers pitching
yeah,
staff, which is, if we're just talking about the rotation, elite. They are going to be trotting out these four guys in. Anyway, I guess we can't say for certain this is going to be the order, but you and I, we talked about it. We are both very
mhm,
confident this is going to be the order that the Dodgers trot out their starting pitchers. We know for sure who game one is going to be, and that's going to be Blake Snell. Yamamoto is going to be game two. Glasnow is likely going to be game three, and then Otani's likely to be game four. Those are four aces. You have, and actually, I saw
oh,
an
yeah.
interesting stat. I believe Otani, Glasnow, and Snell are the three highest K per nine leaders in MLB history. So you have
Yeah,
the
I mean,
three best, and that's minimum 100 starts. You have the three best strikeout pitchers in MLB history. And if you need a dominant pitching rotation in the postseason, you want guys who can strike people out because when runs come at a premium like they do in the World Series, especially because I mean, even like the Blue Jays you just talked about, like they pitched well. Like you're never
yeah,
going to get to the World Series with a bad rotation.
mm,
You might not be elite, but you might be average and just carried by your offense. But it's going to be at worst like an average pitching staff. And I think Toronto probably is somewhere around there, maybe even just above. But when you're looking at what has success in the playoffs, especially World Series, strikeouts dominate because
mm,
when you have a runner on third and one out, you don't have to pull the infield in. You
yeah,
can trust your guy to go get a strikeout potentially. And it's so awesome to be able to have that luxury. And, if you've got someone on the mound who is a ground ball pitcher and pitches to contact, that's just that's what worse luck. You got to pull the infield in, and then a little
yeah.
bloop or a Baltimore chop go over your head, and that's a run. And those would not normally be base hits, but infield pulled in, crazy stuff happens. It's how it's how teams win games by putting the ball in play. And
Hmm.
I think the Dodgers are going to have an easier time if we're just talking about putting the ball in play simply because the pitching matchup.
Yeah, the MLB in strikeouts during the regular season. They're second actually behind the Blue Jays in the postseason. Obviously, the Blue Jays have played more games.
Yes.
Only a four strikeout difference there. Um, and they've also given up, the Blue Jays have given up 14 more home runs this postseason than the Dodgers pitching staff has. Um, Dodgers also third in ERA and first in WHIP. So the pitching staff for the Dodgers has been dialed in this postseason. We just mentioned it before the show. Alex Vesia will be missing at least some time. Um, or is he left off the roster entirely?
Uh, it's hard to tell from what the Dodgers put out.
Yeah, they
Unfortunately,
haven't really.
they
He's
have
got a
had
family issue. They
some.
haven't really
Yeah.
gone into much depth, so I wouldn't expect to see him. Um, so that is, a loss for the Dodgers, but I think the rest of the rotation, starting wise, and the bullpen is good enough to keep the Jays at bay for the most part. Like we mentioned, all four of those guys that we mentioned as the Dodgers starters would be the ace on the Blue Jays roster right now. Um, so yeah, the Blue Jays have an uphill battle, but they've been leading the postseason in batting average this year, and they're hitting nearly 300 as a team. So they've got a chance to put the ball in play, and they have the guys that do that. That's just the Blue Jays style of baseball is it's very like a AL Central style of
Yeah.
baseball and not an AL East style of baseball, which you
Yeah.
think of more a lot of teams that just pound the ball. These guys just generate runs. They find ways to generate runs, putting the ball in play, and that's what they're good at. So, um, yeah, I mean, obviously they have a tough matchup with the Dodgers pitching staff, but it's the World Series. It's going to be tough.
If we talk about the lineup for the Dodgers, it is, I mean, three about as tough top three hitters that any pitcher is going to have to face at any
Shoot,
point in
make
their
it
career.
four. Throw Will
Um,
Smith in there too.
yeah, I mean, Will Smith can hit too, but I'm really worried about Ohtani, Mookie, and Freddie. Like those are the
Yeah.
three guys who I have circled. And to be honest with you, I'm looking at Ohtani and I'm looking at Freddie, and I'm saying I can't let these two guys beat me. You have top two hitter in the world in Shohei Ohtani, and you have last year's World Series MVP in Freddie Freeman. And we
Yeah.
all remember the absolute monstrous run Freddie went on last October in the World Series. It was dominant. So I've
Mhm.
got his name circled in every lineup, and I've got Ohtani at the top. I'm doing whatever I can to not let those two guys beat me. If Mookie sandwiched between those guys beats me, I don't love it, but I would rather have that.
Yeah. It's the lesser of three evils, I would
Yes,
say.
absolutely.
Um, and I've done it at this stage in the World Series. The Blue Jays have significantly less postseason experience on their roster. I think maybe the only guy that's been to a World Series in their starting roster is Springer,
Yeah.
I want to say. So
But talk about a guy who has plenty of experience and has shown up.
yeah, clutch too. So um, but yeah, I mean, obviously the Dodgers mostly the same roster that we saw last year in the World Series. So these guys have the experience. They've delivered in those big time moments. But yeah, I mean, you can't let those top three guys beat you. And really, the top six, seven guys can, all do damage. So it's just got to be, limit the damage from those top three guys as much as you can and make the rest of the team beat you. And if that happens, that's just baseball. If the top three beat you, those are just some of the best players in the world, and the talent is just different there. Um, so yeah, you got to figure out a way to limit the damage that they can do as much as you can. Shohei coming into game four of the CS into the World Series, he was struggling a little bit at the plate, but I think he got his swagger back a little bit in game four, I would say. So that would definitely worry me if I'm John Schneider going into this matchup. So especially with him at the top of the order, getting as many as bats as he possibly can. So
Yeah, and I'm probably lower on the rest of the Dodgers lineup than most people. But I think the scary thing about the Dodgers lineup is all the different renditions of it that you could possibly see. Because uh,
Yeah.
they have many ways that they will deploy these guys, both offensively and defensively. It's been a little more consistent this year than in years past. I feel like the last few years we've been talking about the Dodgers. It's like, wow, you have no idea what sort of lineup you're going to see day to day. I think this year it's more of we kind of know what we're going to see, but how does it evolve throughout the course of a game? Because they can mix and match, and they've got a fantastic pinch runner in Sung Kim. They've got a great defensive replacement in Miggy Rojas, and then they've got a really nice righty bat off the bench in Alex Call. So I think how they deploy and how Dave Roberts uses his bench is going to be something to look out for. And when you're looking at John Schneider, who has not been there, done that before, he also has a lot of different kind of guys to go deploy, but it's not as deep unless Bo Bichette is back.
Mhm.
Are you leaning towards Bo Bichette playing or not?
I would think yes. I mean, it's the World Series.
Hmm.
Never guaranteed to get back there. A guy like Bo Bichette, who's got baseball in his blood
Yep.
with his father, I think he does everything in his power to play. And I don't think John Schneider holds him back either. If you get hurt again, you've got all off season to recover from it. You leave it out there on the field, unless he's physically a burden to the team
Yeah.
being out there, obviously. Um, so yeah, I think you figure out a spot to put him, even if it's, you know, putting him at DH and somehow finding a way for Springer to get into the outfield
I don't
again.
think he can. With
Yeah,
that,
I don't
his
know.
knee is banged up right now. It's a knee for both of these guys.
Yeah,
I think, you've got to have the guy who plays infield and is less, running involved compared to Springer in the
yeah.
outfield. I think you got to let
Maybe put
Springer
him at
DH.
maybe put him at third,
Yeah.
you know.
And Ernie Clement can play third or second. I
Yeah, he can
saw
play anywhere.
I saw Bichette was taking ground balls at second today. I'm with you though. I would stick Ernie Clement at second and Bichette at third, that just to give him as much rest on that knee as possible. And maybe you're worried about the arm or something, with him playing at third, but I'm worried about the knee and the bat. Like
Yeah.
that's all I care about when I'm talking about Bo Bichette. Like adding him to this lineup is going to be a key piece, I think, because we talked about how dominant this Dodgers pitching staff is, and you
Yeah.
need every possible bat. And I think getting IKF's bat out of the lineup is
Yeah.
beneficial.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah. I mean, you gotta, I mean, also, I mean, obviously Bo Bichette's gonna be rusty,
Yes, but
and it's a very tough ask for him to just hop back in there against this rotation. But I do think he gives you a better chance than IKF probably. Um, so yeah, you gotta find a spot for him somewhere. This Blue Jays roster is very young. They have one, two, three guys. Six of their guys have less than 5 years of service time.
wow. Yeah.
Two of them under a full year of service time
Mhm.
starting in this roster. So yeah, I think all the Bo Bichette obviously is a seasoned pro, almost a veteran at this point. So he's going to have I think a better shot at making an impact maybe than you know some of these other guys they got in there. But
Yep.
I mean, roster, the hitting has not been bad for the Blue Jays at all this postseason. Obviously, a lot of that is Vladdy, but
A lot of it, but not all of it. I mean, George Springer, like I mentioned just a minute ago, has shown up, and
yeah.
I mean that home run he hit, Game 7. I think it was the bottom of the seventh inning in the Rogers Center.
Mhm.
It was electric. I was watching that game live, and It was it just felt like his moment, and he delivered. So Springer is, I think, a lock to DH and leadoff. I don't see him going and playing outfield on that knee. Maybe towards the end of like game seven if it makes it that far. But I think at that point Bichette's probably feeling good. I think you just leave Springer at the DH spot and ask him to keep doing what he's been doing. Then you got, I think, Nathan Luke's in the two hole, righty
Yep.
lefty at the top. He's looked surprisingly good to me. Vladdy in the three hole. I wouldn't mind seeing, him move up to two just to get more at bats. The last thing I would ever want to see is a Cal Raleigh situation, which is game seven. You end up on deck with Cal
Yeah.
Raleigh. Obviously, it's Julio Rodriguez hitting, so it's not like the biggest deal. But imagine game seven, Vladdy Jr.'s on deck and Nathan Lukes is at the plate. Like,
Nathan Lakes is taking us at bat.
it's bad. It's a bad look.
It is.
I think modern day baseball, it's 7 games. If you can get Guerrero one more at bat in the 7 possible games, that could be the difference between winning and losing.
Hmm.
And I think that is very important to me. And I am all for having Guerrero hit two behind Springer.
I agree.
Bichette might fill in it too, though.
And we mentioned that with Shohei. I mean, Shohei's hitting
Yes,
leadoff for a reason.
exactly. This is why, yeah, this is why Shohei's not hitting cleanup or third, and Mookie's not hitting, third, and Freddie's at fourth. It is just your top three guys. You do not want any of them to not getting it back. And I
Right.
think having it go righty, lefty, righty, or lefty, righty, lefty, like it does for the Dodgers, makes sense when you have three guys of that caliber. So I don't really care about going righty, lefty, righty to start for the Blue Jays. I mean, how often does it line up perfectly with a three batter minimum these days? Oh, I'm going to put
Mhm.
so and so in, and they're, it's just no one's scared of Nathan Lukes. I'm sorry, like he's
Yeah.
very good. He's done so well for this Blue Jays, filling in left field,
Nobody's
but
pitching around him.
nobody's pitching around him, especially not with Vladdy behind him. So, I mean, you would ensure him getting pitches to hit there because nobody's pitching around him, but
Yeah.
um. I like the depth of the Blue Jays lineup. That's something I think I want to harken on for a while. Alejandro Kirk, the
Yeah.
best defensive catcher in baseball this year, probably, but can swing it.
Yeah,
Um,
he can.
Dalton Varsho, fantastic defender out in center field, can play catcher in a pinch if you need him, and rakes. Ernie Clement, like we talked about, can move around, a utility type guy, but has been tremendous at the plate, I thought, this year. Addison Barger has really stood out to me as a guy who I was not necessarily cognizant of at all prior to this year, and he has looked really solid. And then
Not necessarily familiar with his game.
yeah, I was not familiar with this game at all. Dude's got a cannon, by the way.
Yeah.
And then IKF and Jimenez rounded out, and I'm not really concerned with either of those two guys. Jimenez plays a really good shortstop, and IKF can also play catcher for you in a pinch.
Wait, can he really?
IKF, yeah, he's done some catching back in his day. I think he caught with Texas before he moved.
I did not know that.
I believe so. Um, You can fact check me on that if you'd like, but yeah, I believe him and Varsho both started their careers as catchers.
I know Varsho did.
Yeah. So it's a really nice bottom of the lineup, or at least I'll say mid bottom middle.
How would you compare it to the Dodgers?
I like it
Who would you
more.
take?
I do. I would take the 4 through 7. I would take the Blue Jays over the Dodgers, and honestly, not that close. I'm not a Muncie guy. I am not an Edmund guy, so I like Teoscar Hernandez. A lot of swing and miss in that bat, though.
Yeah.
And Will Smith, I think, is very solid. I no qualms with Will Smith, but I'm just not really a Muncie or Edmund guy. And I know Edmonds a switch hitter, which is nice to have in the playoffs, and how he can deploy defensively at many different positions. But I prefer the Blue Jays lineup in that kind of run there.
That's fair. I mean, I'm not the biggest Muncy guy either. I'm not the biggest Teoscar fan, honestly.
Yeah.
Um, I do like Tommy Edman probably a little more than the average, you know, onlooker.
Hmm.
I do value the switch hitting, and then Kike Hernandez is so hot and cold, but he always finds a way to be clutch in postseason moments.
I
So
think
that
he's lost it.
you think so?
I
Yeah. I
don't think
mean,
I don't think the
it
magic's there anymore. I just watching him, I don't know if it's there.
hasn't looked great, but he does always find a way to just be a clutch at bat.
Yeah. Yeah. I almost prefer him coming off the bench for that reason though.
Yeah, I
Um,
wouldn't mind that either. Just play a little.
it's just I mean, the thing is with this Dodgers lineup, and you mentioned it, the flip side of it, how young the Blue Jays lineup is. This Dodgers team has not only been there in just the last year and won it, but these guys are all veterans. Of their
Mm,
projected like starting lineup of Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, Will Smith, Max Muncy, Teoscar, Tommy Edman, Kike, Andy Pajes. Andy Pajes is the only one younger than 30. Everybody else is in their 30s.
yeah.
It is a veteran lineup. They all have 5 years of service or more besides Pajes. This is just like it. They're not going to see anything new. And I think that is the scary thing if you're John Schneider. It's like, what can we do as the Blue Jays team to shake these guys, to rattle them? Can we put them in an unfamiliar spot? Not really.
Mm-mm.
They've been there and won it, they've been there and lost it for most of these guys as well.
Yeah.
So it's it's just really tough as a Blue Jays fan to sit here and think, how are we going to sort of get that advantage? As a Dodgers fan, literally like anything besides to Springer is a brand new experience to these guys. They don't have it. They don't have this World Series vibes, and they went through the ringer in the ALCS, and I think that has definitely they've cut their teeth for sure against the Mariners, who we all had picked, I believe.
Yeah.
Like that was a
So,
really good team. I don't think the step up from the Mariners to the Dodgers is too significant of a step. It is a step up, but I don't think it's a giant leap to steal the words from a famous man who walked on the moon. Um, yeah, we're getting close to having to make picks here. Coming into this, did you have your pick already, or were you kind of going to talk it out live?
you know, I feel probably the same way as a lot of non-Dodgers fans do about the Dodgers. So
Hmm.
there's a big part of me that wants to take the underdog here. But I mean, these guys won it last year for a reason,
Yep.
and they got better. And I just think that the pitching for the Dodgers, if these guys do what they're supposed to do, even go 5 innings,
We
I think
have
the
okay,
bullpen's good enough.
we haven't talked about the bullpens really.
We really haven't.
I prefer the Blue Jays bullpen. It's not by a lot.
Yeah.
I think it best case scenario it's, 60-40 lean for me, closer to, 51-49. But you're looking at just from the closer position, Jeff Hoffman versus Roki Sasaki. Roki Sasaki has looked like the truth at the closer position, but really young guy. And Jeff Hoffman did it all year and is a veteran. So I'm not sure who and we've seen Sasaki kind of implode on himself. So I think I'd slightly take Hoffman over Sasaki. Without Vesia, I
Yeah,
like
that's true.
who you've got Blake Trinan, who really only faces one side of the plate well. Like he gets dinged up by a whole half of the hitters, like so you've got 38-year-old Clayton Kershaw who can't even throw 90 anymore, who is going to be like your emergency guy. I think we see him probably once, maybe if it's
Yeah.
like not a close game. I don't know how Dave Roberts feels about using him in high leverage, to be honest with you. And then I like Emmett Sheehan, but other than that, I'm not an Anthony Banda guy. And all their other big names who we talked about all year, we talked so much about how insane this Dodgers bullpen was. But you've
They're all
got
hurt.
Vesia, yeah, you've got Vesia down, Tanner Scott down, Brusdar
Kopech.
Graterol down, Michael Kopech down, Evan Phillips down, Kirby Yates down, Gavin Stone down, like Tony Gonsolin down. Like it just
Yeah.
they are down to a skeleton crew. And if you're looking at the Blue Jays, you've got Jeff Hoffman and Sir Anthony Dominguez and Yariel Rodriguez all healthy, pitching really well right now. Louis Varland looks really good.
Yeah. I
I'm
mean,
a
with all
Chris
the
Bassett
injuries,
hater though. I just want to point that out.
what'd you say?
I'm a Chris Bassett hater. Day
Okay.
one, always have been, always will be. Nothing will change my mind.
Yeah, I mean, with all the injuries, it's a different look bullpen for the Dodgers, and it does become a little more balanced. Um, you know what? I agree with you. I think I'm liking the Blue Jays bullpen a little more. Um, just what worries me is how deep can their starters go?
Yeah, I mean Kevin Gausman not necessarily known for being someone who throws deep in the games.
Yeah,
Max Scherzer is 41 years old. Trey Savage is 22 years old, so not, a veteran by any means. And Shane Bieber coming off, an entire injured season. They got him at the trade deadline. He didn't really start pitching till September, August. Like it wasn't
yeah,
late. It was late into the year when he even started. So this Blue Jays bullpen is going to have to be used. I don't think they're going to have guys going seven very often, if even once at all. And that's not something you really see in the World Series. You do not want Shohei Ohtani seeing a guy for the third time, if I'm just
no,
being honest with you. So I think they're going to have to rely on the top end of their bullpen, your Chris Bassett, who I just mentioned, your Eric Lauers, your Louis Varlands. Like you're going to have some of those guys go and eat some innings on a consistent basis. And the nice thing about the World Series is there's, travel days and breaks. So the guys get rested again, but they're going to get taxed, they're going to get used. And I do trust the Dodgers starters to eat a few more innings, but not that much more because Tyler Glasnow, was injured for a lot of the season, and Shohei Ohtani was injured for a lot of the season. So those two guys' arms aren't necessarily built up for the long haul. Snell, known for being pulled early in the World Series, so we'll see how that goes. But also a guy who walks batters at a historic rate and strikes out batters at a historic rate. So the pitch count gets really high with him. So I think we are going to be relying on the bullpens heavily for both of these teams, which is another reason that I am kind of being pulled towards liking the Blue Jays.
liking the Blue Jays as the winner.
I also want to talk about the travel.
Yeah,
Heading west to east historically is just more difficult than east to west. Now I understand that both teams are making the travel, but one of these teams live full time in the Eastern time zone. So I think the travel and it starts in Toronto, which I think is almost, I mean, obviously, home field advantage is worth it, but if the Dodgers weren't able to already be over there and get acclimated, I think that could be more jarring when the series would flip to Toronto, but instead they're both traveling west for games 3 and 4.
right.
So that almost kind of negates it, but there's just a lot of little things that give me reason to think this is going to be a really close series and for it not to be a Dodgers sweep or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't think it's a sweep. Um, I don't. So are you staking your claim here as the Blue Jays winning? Or what's your stance here?
Looking at the pitching matchups and everything, we got Snell versus Trey Savage, and all respect to you, Trey. I've got the Dodgers winning game one. Kevin Gausman, I think, is going to go game two for the Blue Jays. I like him against Yamamoto. I think we're heading to LA tied up at 1-1, personally. Tyler Glasnow matched up versus Shane Bieber. I think that could go either way. I mean, Shane has looked really good. Glasnow more dominant, but the bullpen's going to be rested for the Blue Jays, I'm thinking. I think the Blue Jays could win game three. Ohtani versus Scherzer, you've got, the vet in Scherzer, but I probably have it got it knotted up after four. And with home field advantage, I think I'm going to take the Blue Jays in seven.
I would love to see that. I think we're either knotted after four or 3-1. I'm gonna say Dodgers in six. I'm gonna say Dodgers in six.
That's been a popular one. I don't know what the I guess like kind of odds imply, but I assume that's probably about what the implied odds are.
Yeah. I
It's an
love the
uphill
Blue Jays
battle.
pick. It is an uphill battle, and we were talking about, just pitching is seems to be king a lot of the times in the postseason.
Yeah, but
And
what I saw the Blue Jays do to that pitching that I thought was elite in Seattle,
right,
I think they've seen enough really good pitching. I think their bats are ready, and I know it is a slight step up from the Mariners to the Dodgers, as I mentioned, but at some point, hot bats are just hot bats.
very true.
We'll see.
We'll see. So, who is your pick for World Series MVP?
Vladdy,
Yeah, got to be if you're going with the Blue
gotta be.
Jays. And I'd find it tough to not pick Shohei if we're going
It's
for,
gotta be.
yeah. I mean, if we're going for World Series MVP for the Dodgers, obviously he didn't win it last year, but he also wasn't pitching.
Correct.
If he gets two good games in and, hits the ball well, I don't know how you go any other
I don't,
direction unless somebody hits, has a World Series like Freddie had last year.
yeah. I don't see him pitching twice. Just the way it lines up with him being, slated for game four, most likely. He's probably he could come out of the pen, game seven if it goes that far, Otani we're talking about, but
Hmm.
I don't see him going two games. But if he has, a six inning shutout in that
Yeah.
game like he did in the NLCS, then that what he does with the bat will probably be enough.
Yeah, or even if he comes in relief.
Yeah, he very much could. I think who's your like wild card in this series? Who's the guy that you think is going to be the standout performer that is not an established star? Could and
I
didn't
think
have
it'd
to
have
be
to be
from your winning.
Varsho.
Yeah,
Um, I think he's, obviously a really good bat, and then he plays a great defense out in center.
tremendous.
So I think he could be, I mean, and he's hitting fifth, or projected to hit fifth, has been hitting fifth. So great spot to drive in runs, even though you don't have a lot of speed on the base pass in front of you in Kirk and Guerrero.
Yeah.
Um, but it's a great spot to drive in a lot of runs. He's going to get a good amount of at bats. So I think Dalton Varsho would be my pick for, kind of like that surprise player.
Hmm.
Um, if I were to go with the Dodgers, I'm a Tommy Edman guy. So I'd say maybe Tommy Edman, um, switch hitter bat.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
could see him.
To me, it's Ernie Clement. for the Blue Jays. I think what he's able to do defensively and moving around and allowing Bichette to be in the lineup
Mhm.
is going to be something that's not
Yeah.
talked about enough if Bichette plays. So that's going to be a big plus. And then for the Dodgers, I actually wanted to go someone out of their pen, and it's Emmett Sheehan. I think he could throw some really good innings for this team, and they're going to need him to step up with Vesia being out. And I hope for his sake everything's okay, and maybe he can come back. We don't know if he's missing the whole series or not. I don't think it's been announced. We'll see if he makes the roster. Um, I don't know how that works, all the intricacies of that, but um, if he's not playing at all in this World Series, Sheehan's going to be a necessary um, workhorse, I think, out of the pen. So he's a
Yeah.
guy to look out for me.
Yeah. I like Sheehan. He's been good this year, so
Okay, well, I think there's our picks. We're gonna do no tricky 50 this week. So, if you're listening to the podcast here, thank you so much. I should have shouted out in the beginning. This is up on YouTube as well. So if you want to just give it a second listen over there, that'd be cool. If not, we will catch you next week and have some updates on the World Series. Maybe it's still going by the time you hear from
yeah.
us.
Hopefully.
Um,
Hopefully it's not a
Probably
sweep.
not, but maybe. All right. Well, we will catch you next time. Peace out.
See ya.